China's been doing it for 2 years. China's been buying silver and gold doré and concentrate for 2 years or longer, pre-production, pre-refining. It disintermediates the market. That's exactly what Tether is doing. They're disintermediating the market. You know, my friend Keith Neumeyer told me a year ago, he said, maybe 2 years ago, he said that he was at a conference speaking, probably right as we were coming out of the pandemic, and saying, this is the first time I've ever seen auto manufacturers at the conferences I'm speaking at coming directly
for folks who don't know, Keith Neumeyer is the CEO of First Majestic Silver, one of the largest pure play, well, it's not quite a pure play, but one of the largest silver miners out there.
Yeah, as far in terms of pure silver, they are, I think, the purest of all of them. Like, and that's only about 60% of what they do is silver. I'm pretty sure they are number one in terms of purest, which goes to show just how hard it is to mine silver these days. Of all of the 850 plus million ounces mined last year, only roughly 160, 70 million came from companies like Keith's. The majority of it, because it's depleting in nature, it's found up on top, like your skin is epidermis. It's found in something called epithermal near the top. So the big deposits are gone. It's mostly byproduct of copper, zinc, and lead, and they stumble across it. So it's becoming harder and harder and harder to find. But he said, yeah, they're coming right up to the conferences to disintermediate the entire marketplace. But that's what China's been doing. Sean Kuhn, who is the CEO of Dolly Varden, has told me this a year ago. Yeah, Andy, they're coming by the drove. They go to Mexico and Peru, number 1 and 3. China, number 2, largest producers of silver in the world. Buy the bars in doré form, buy the concentrate, a byproduct sludge, if you will, of the mining process, pay double what the West will, ship it back to China to refine it. It's the same thing that we see now happening. The big money is doing all they can, whether it be Tether or the Chinese or Samsung, and I'm sure there's a lot more that isn't getting publicity. They understand that this is a depleting asset, one that has, you need it, or you can't make your product, or you can't have an advanced civilization in AI, robotics, high-tech military, all of these things. And that's why Trump made it a critical mineral in my mind.
Okay, so a couple of recent geopolitical things to ask you about. One, China, one of the things people think that was driving the recent surge in silver was that China basically announced it was going to implement an export ban on refined silver. And I think you've told us in the past that China is the number 1 refiner of silver in the world. All that doré, everything goes to China, gets refined, gets shipped back out. China is now essentially slamming the window shut and saying, hey, any silver that comes in anymore is going to stay here, more or less. And I believe that export ban did indeed go into effect 2 days ago.
January
1st. Yeah. What are we seeing from that? Anything yet?
Well, I mean, we'll know more what's going to happen once the market opens up here in, let's see, what time is it? It opens up in 6 hours. We'll see what's happening. But I mean, I think, again, it just goes to show if you have nations that are saying, yeah, this is critical, and yeah, we agree, we're not going to send it out anywhere near like we used to. I mean, they will send some out, but they're if you're not a state-sponsored refinery, you can't send it out anymore. And there were all these small mid-level refiners that would send all their stuff out. Not anymore. You have to have a certain amount, like you have to produce a certain amount, be proven for a couple of years, and then get a permit through Beijing. But the state doesn't want to send this stuff out. It's going to have an effect. They're responsible for 60 to 70% of all the world's silver refining, and a lot of that would make its way back into the Western markets. And so if there is hoarding here on COMEX, again, millions of ounces every month, millions of ounces. These people aren't letting it go. So once it comes into COMEX, where's it going? Who's standing for delivery? Who's taking it out of the COMEX? Yeah, it's a race, and it will. All of these things will add up. And the interesting thing about it is that people who listen to me and you and others in this industry, Vince Lancy, amazing, a lot of really smart, good guys out there that are telling us this, well, we're the pimple on the elephant's rear end. The big money, the rear end, they have or the elephant itself, rather, they have no idea what's coming. And that's the interesting thing, is that when you take a step back and realize big money always positions before the herd, well, you can see it. You guys have a front row seat to see it. what makes people who listen to you and others in this industry unique is they have open minds. But I guarantee you, a Christmas dinner or Thanksgiving dinner, they would have a very hard time speaking this way to their friends and their family because no one gets it yet. So you will see profound impacts. But by the time it's recognizable to the mainstream, it'll be far too late. Everyone will have been far too positioned. And what is left, the scraps, will be too far and too few between in order, I think, to make it realistic for those people to protect themselves, because it'll be too expensive, too hard to get, too long, too many delivery delays, et cetera. Public is just now starting to wake up. The retail business has picked up over the holidays. I wanted to take a vacation. I worked my ass off every single day. Our phones were blowing up, truthfully. And
with a lot of thoughtful money viewers, by the way. I just want to acknowledge that a lot of people have taken advantage of this opportunity you've made available to them.
Well, and I appreciate that. And I will tell you, there's some of the highest quality people that we've spoken to ever in terms of their intellect, their understanding, their questions, everything. It's been wonderful. And but I don't think that we've even begun to see where this is ultimately going to go. But I do believe that January in particular, they call it the January effect, where lots of money is being deployed. But because silver went so high, at the same time, the Bloomberg Commodity Index, they have to rebalance it. So some silver has to be sold by law, but that plays right into the hands of those that are coming in to buy it, plays right into the hands of the banks that want to scoop it up. It's going to be volatile. Don't get shook. It's going to be volatile, but come back and look at this mid-February, and I think things will start to make a good deal of sense.
All right. Well, Andy, we will continue to have you, return to this program with a regular cadence. Hopefully not for your schedule as much as I've been leaning on you of late.
No, I love coming on, and I'll always make time for you, Adam. I'm dead serious about that. One other thing I just want to hammer on for 1 second. When we see the institutions closest to the metal prioritizing control of deliverable silver, not promises of future availability. In other words, where JP Morgan and Citibank are the two biggest recipients of all of the silver that Deutsche Bank, they made Deutsche Bank give up. Now, normally metal would flow back and forth between the banks in Europe and the banks in the United States. Remember, Tom Luongo has this theory that Trump is out to get the European aristocrats, and he'll do it by exposing the European banks, including the Bank of England. Well, all of this metal is coming back. And when you see Deutsche Bank have to cough up all of this gold and all of this metal to, in particular, JP Morgan and Citibank, it's like they're cannibalizing each other, that this relationship, this unspoken relationship, is now breaking down. And I think that is a really, 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 really big deal. To me, it's interesting because Citibank says it's for their house account. JP Morgan says it's for a client. Who's got that kind of metal?
Right.
Which clients want to take in this kind of volume?
Who's got that kind of money? Yeah.
Yes. And so I just want you to understand that these banks never cannibalized each other. It seems like maybe, and they were either forced or willing to deliver to JP Morgan and Citibank. And the best way to say that is the smartest, best connected institutions in the silver market now want to hold the metal themselves right now rather than take the paper promises into the future. This has never happened to this degree. It just tells you that that's all you need to know going into this volatility. Hold tight, even shut off your darn computer, come back and look at it in February. You'll be probably better off.
Okay. So forewarned, folks, the roller coaster ride might get a little bumpy from here, but Andy's not, he's not worried. He thinks higher prices will be ahead once the dust settles.
Yes.
Okay, couple other things. So over the weekend, we've had the U.S. remove Nicolas Maduro from Venezuela, and Trump was pretty direct, saying, hey, big reason for this is they took, our oil infrastructure that we had in place down there, and we want it back. And obviously Venezuela's, been a basket case in terms of oil production. They've got I do believe with oil, they've got the world's largest reserves. And yet they have done such a poor job of tapping them in recent decades because of the shortcomings of the type of regimes that have been running the country there. So obviously, big priority for Trump and America to say, okay, let's start getting that oil out of the ground better. Venezuela also holds a lot of other riches. They are one of the most rich countries in terms of gold reserves in the ground. Do you expect this over time to have any impact on gold and maybe silver as new supply comes into the market that hasn't been getting tapped over the past couple of decades? You're shaking your head. So, okay, let's
and they have other things, natural gas and all sorts of other things. But no, if silver is a strategic metal, if they get their hands on it, it ain't coming back. And you could say the same thing about Gaddafi, about Saddam Hussein. And what about the 12 billion in gold the Ukraine sold to fund the war? Where'd that go? You could say that's all perhaps coming back to the U.S. for strategic purposes. Yeah. And, when Trump starts talking about the Monroe Doctrine, I think he's saying it's not just, this isn't like a pushback to the BRICS in my mind. Venezuela had applied to the BRICS. It's not just about them. He came out, there's an article in Axios that says he just publicly issued warnings to governments of Mexico, Cuba, and Colombia.
It was pretty thinly veiled in his press conference that they shouldn't rest easy. Yeah.
But I mean, I think that if they're going to come in and take this stuff, it's not going into the open market. It's going into the U.S. coffers, because I do think that is part of national security. Certainly silver is. And if Judy Shelton, who you and I have talked about a million times, is right, well, that's part and parcel of what Tether is doing to push the price up. You need lots of gold to back the treasuries. Well, that would make sense to me. It ain't going out into the marketplace. It's going to back a new system, I believe, a new monetary system. So yes, it will have impact in terms of how it would benefit the country that holds it. But I don't think that's going to be something that will be dumped onto the COMEX market or onto the LBMA for anyone who wants to buy it. No, it's just going to strengthen the position behind the scenes.
Okay. Good insight, and I'm just noticing we get more comments than I expected in the live chat here about people saying, "Hey, thanks for sharing all that about the skin cancer stuff." So, fortunately, we've got some people that are going to go get tested, and we've got some people that actually
God bless
skin cancer survivors saying, "Hey, this is really important." All right, so let me ask you this, because you were talking about how by the time everybody kind of wakes up to this, the elephant the general public wakes up to the fact that, the silver stuff's a lot scarcer than we realized, and man, I want to get my hands on it now. And you think, it's going to be too late, more or less, by then. Back when gold was hitting its previous nominal high of 1900, so this was 2011. As it was racing there were cash for gold ads everywhere, right? Gold's back to it has recently hit an all-time high. It's a little off, but it got to all-time highs recently. Silver's going bananas. I haven't really seen those ads yet, and I'm curious, when the silver gig is up, do you think we'll be seeing cash for silver ads everywhere?
Part of me believes that the majority of that stuff has already been sold along the way. I say that to you from talking to people. Say, yeah, man, I sold that stuff a long time ago when it wasn't worth that much, and I dumped it. And maybe there just isn't as much of that out there anymore because, people, when gold hit 2000, I think people thought that's it, and it ain't ever going higher than that. Dump it now. And certainly when silver hit $50, it ain't ever going high now. Dump it. It's an interesting thought, but I haven't seen as much of it either. I don't know. I mean, I'll tell you that as someone who runs a precious metals company, we get very little in the way of people selling. Of course, we will always run a two-way market, but I would argue that the majority of that stuff that was in weak hands was sold a long time ago. Just my own personal opinion. But yeah, I mean, you should. silver is becoming that valuable. A tube of Silver Eagles, something like this, it's 20 coins. It's not cheap anymore. It's $1,600. So it's not cheap. So yeah, I would think it should. And I'm sure you will see people that would be willing to and happy to buy people silver. The only other thing too is that, you can, if this were a tube of gold, it's $90,000. So when you talk about shipping large amounts of silver, it becomes a little bit more difficult and stuff. Yeah. But I mean, I don't know. Your question makes sense. I don't know how it all plays out. My guess is the majority of the stuff in weak hands has already been sold years ago.
Has the silver boom peaked out? You've already said, from your perspective, no. You think it's probably going a lot higher, though the ride will be volatile. Let me just ask, I'm not going to hold you to this, but just sort of guesstimating, where are you sort of prepared potentially for the silver price to go in 2026?
So if we took gold right now at $4,330 and we divided by 42, which is pretty much the average man's price of the last 100 years, you're at what are you at? 43.32 divided by 42. You're at $103. What's interesting is if you take the 45-year cup and handle, the top in 1980 is 45. The bottom is around 4. That's $46 difference. Then you get up to 2011 where it's the top again. So, and then it comes down to the handle. And when it breaks through, you take the top minus the bottom, that's 50 minus 4, 46. Add it to the top, that's $96. Pretty darn close to where that number is. I would not be surprised one bit to see Keith Neumeyer's triple-digit silver prediction years ago play out. And quite frankly, that would just be the average ratio between the two for the last 100+ years. It could go much higher than that. If you realize it's coming out of the ground at 7-1, I'm not saying we're going to get to 7-1, but even take 20-1. Well, 20-1 right now at $4,332 would be $216. Could silver hit $200? Yes. Will it? Don't know. That's a lofty guess, but I think $100 silver is not foolish at all. I mean, at all. Not only is it the average ratio of the last 200 years, roughly 150 years, but it would still be about 6 times higher than it's coming out of the ground at.
Okay. And let me ask you this right now, given market conditions right now, if somebody they had a certain amount of money, $5,000, $10,000, and they wanted to put it in either gold or silver, which would you encourage them to put it in right now?
100% silver. 100%. Okay. Now, if someone had $10 million, it wouldn't be the same thing, because ultimately you want to continue to buy gold. Ultimately, when the music stops, it's about gold, in my opinion. But the value and the leverage and just the flat out, in my mind, best value I've ever seen, most undervalued commodity in the world is still silver. When the music stops, gold's going to be massively reintegrated into the system, and we're not getting any younger. So again, if this is $1,600, whatever, silver, but 90,000 gold, as you get older, moving, schlepping, storing, logistics with silver can become an issue. So I think you use that ratio. Now, when you and I started talking, the ratio was 85-1. Now it's in the 50s. It's averaged roughly 42-1 since the Industrial Revolution. Coming out of the ground at 6-1. You can see this trend disappearing in nature. Only 20% comes from silver miners, the rest byproduct. The trend is for a declining ratio. And then when that ratio gets anywhere 40 or under, you're supposed to switch to gold. So there will come a time to do that. Right now, silver, but could very shortly be gold. But value-wise, for 10 grand, you're just way better off having the leverage of silver versus 2.5 ounces of gold.
Okay. I'm smiling there, Andy, because somebody just put Andy Schectman for president 2028. So just know you got a lot of goodwill amongst the following.
Thank you. I appreciate that, you guys. I try hard. I do the best I can. You know, hey, saying these things, putting yourself out on a limb in front of the world is not as easy as you might think. You know,
no, and you take a lot of
things. You want to be measured about it for sure. I don't want to be. One other thing, I've told you this before too, Adam. When I think it's time to sell, I swear to you, on the Bible, I swear to you that I will tell the world when I think it's time to sell. But I don't think we're anywhere near that yet. But there will come a time to trade your silver to gold, and I'll be the first one to tell you when it's time.